Welcome back. You're listening to another episode of the Keep the Change podcast. And we've got another Luke in the studio today. Double the trouble. Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, good to see you too, man. It's been a long time.
It has. We've known each other for a little while, and I'm excited to unpack a little bit more about your journey for other people. Now, I gave you a call up and said, I'm trying to achieve the outcome that more Kiwi people realise that they could be selling something internationally and do that from New Zealand and maybe even package their knowledge and sell that off. And one man who has done that is yourself and your wife and her business partner as well, right? So we're not going to let you take all the credit.
No, definitely it's not all me.
Yeah. But originally, before you got into what we will talk about, you were doing insurance and mortgages, right? Threefold, is that right?
Yeah.
I think when we very first met.
That's right, yeah. So it sort of started off as a mortgage broker in my business journey. Previous to that, I worked in banks and insurance companies and different other finance sort of stuff. But the journey of going overseas and raiding other countries and bringing money back sort of started in the GFC in 2008. So, and it was off the back of Amanda too. So like she is really
she's the soldier,
a big part of the story. Like
yeah.
And what we'd recognise there is that she could earn more money working in Australia, and companies over there, she was an optometrist at the time, still I guess is an optometrist now but doesn't practice. And what she was able to do was get contracts in Australia where they would fly her over and pay for everything, car, accommodation, everything like that, and pay her a ton of money to do that, which was pretty cool. And at the time I was sitting in the bank, earning a reasonable amount, but we were trying to maintain a house here and her over there. And what we discovered was if I just up sticks and went and lived with her, then we could save like $1,000 a month and bring that across. So that was the start of really thinking about how can we go and steal money from overseas and bring it back to New Zealand.
I love it. So she didn't have any living costs whilst in Australia.
That's right.
So then you could go live with her and get rid of your living expenses too, and you'd basically be net better off.
That's right. I think we were saving like $1,200 a week. It was huge.
And yeah, far out, especially in 08.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. And what were you doing over there?
So basically I was just the home help.
Yeah.
I cooked the dinners, like did all of that sort of thing.
Good man.
I did some study as well. Like I studied to become my CFP through Massey, but really it was just there because it was I was there because it was cheaper for me to be there than be working back in New Zealand.
There's a lot of that going on at the moment where people are moving to Australia or flying in, flying out, all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure this will resonate a lot with people. I guess so. Then you've had the idea planted of okay, we can go and earn money internationally, but then you guys still wanted to come back to New Zealand at some stage, and New Zealand was home.
That's right. We'd kind of recognised we've got a large family here, like a big support network. It was we'd been overseas, done an OE prior to that, so we'd kind of done the travel thing. It was time to come back and sort of start a family.
Yeah.
And so that was the idea, was to go over there for a couple of years, be going back and forth, because we would go for 8 weeks and then fly back to Auckland for 2 weeks and then go back for another 8 weeks. So we'd do that to just plan the life here, basically.
I see.
And it was only going to be for a short period until we hit what our savings goals were, which was basically to have a deposit for a house and pay for a wedding, effectively. And then we'd come back and start the rest of our lives, basically.
Good on you, clear goal. Okay, so you come back to New Zealand, and is that when you get into the financial services market?
Yeah, so I'd always wanted to have my own business, and I thought, I'm a child of insurance. My father's an insurance broker, and I'd worked in banking and finance before, so I thought I'll be a mortgage broker. And that journey was fantastic, and Mikey can attest to it as well. It's a great career and a great industry to be in. But ultimately, we were still, that idea of being able to take money from overseas and bring it back had sort of dissipated a bit. And then once we'd sort of had our first child, that's when Amanda stopped working as an optometrist, but we're always looking for like an online business to start. And that's really where the genesis of Little Ones came. Now, Little Ones is a business that helps teach parents how to get babies to sleep, basically. And we're over 500,000 families that we've helped now. So it's pretty cool. It's a massive number.
Oh, it's so good, mate. It is. It's mind-blowing. I can't wait for people to hear this because there's a lot of people. And it's simple. Like, it's not simple what you guys have done, but it's a simple concept, right? You help people get their baby to sleep, solving a massive problem.
That's right. It is a massive problem, and it's a problem that people have all around the world, and new people have it every day. So that level of problem is a really good problem to try and solve. We didn't realize that at the time. It was it was our own problem. And then Amanda wanted to go away, basically. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do. Can you put it into a spreadsheet and just show me what I need to put Millie, when I need to put Millie to sleep and all that sort of stuff, just to not stuff it up, because it's going quite well at the moment. And so she put that together. We go backwards a little bit. There was a lot of research that went into what she had created there, because Millie, our oldest child, was quite sick as a really young baby. So we wanted to nail the sleeping and the feeding side of things, because then we could figure out what else was wrong. And which building this program helped us figure that out. And now she's fine, so it's great.
Yeah.
But that genesis of building that program for me, then we went on to bringing in Nikki, our other business partner, who had exactly the same problem at the same time, and she provides a little bit of a yin and yang to Amanda and I, which creates the business. But then we started to give it to our coffee group mates, that same schedule, and that worked. And then we were looking at it one day and thought, well, why don't we try and sell this? It's the online business that we'd always been looking for. So we created a PDF and started selling it for $7.
Good. Okay, I just want to go back a couple of steps so people can really get this. So you have your own problem, which is trying to get Millie's sleep better. You research and build the solution to that and solve your own problem. And then you give the solution to some other people who have got the same problem, and they agree that this works. And so you're effectively, in business terms, validating the market, or that it actually, solves the problem even more. And then you get to the point where you go, right, let's try and sell this.
That's right.
To people.
Yeah. And it was,
you package it up.
It was it was that simple. It was really just find your own problem, solve it, check that it works for other people, and then figure out where can we sell it. Well, that was quite simple in 2016. It was Facebook was the place.
Yeah.
So that was straightforward at the time. And then you just dive in, and we created a Shopify website, threw it up on there, and people started buying it. You'd have one or two buy a day.
Yeah.
$15. That's great turnover. But then it grew and grew and grew. And then we figured out Facebook ads, and, at the end of the first year, I think we'd done over 300K in sales.
300,000 in the first year.
Yeah. And it all came in the last 2 months of that year.
Yeah.
But it was definitely ramped up.
Yeah.
And then that allowed for both Amanda and Nikki, our business partner, Nikki's a teacher, Amanda's an optometrist. So they were able to quit their jobs basically and go all in on Little Ones at that stage.
And have you quit your role in, I was going to say you're not making lunches, you're helping people get mortgages at this stage. Okay.
The mortgage business was still going, but that's a little less exciting than.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so literally you package the information into a PDF.
That is it.
That's it. And you put that into a Google Drive, or let's say, go back to 2016, 2017, I come online and I buy this. What do I get? What do you send me, and how do you send it to me?
So what they got in 2016, 2017 was access to the PDF. What we discovered early on, that people were just printing it off and giving it to friends.
Of course.
So, there's that, which is, good on them. But we discovered an app that you can add to Shopify that would deliver the PDF, but it would also stamp the name of the person who bought it on the bottom of it. So then we were able to figure out who was doing it and ask them nicely to stop. But that was basically what it was. And that, I think it was a 15-page PDF at the time. And then what we built on the back of that was a Facebook group. And that Facebook group got to about 60 or 70,000 people in it.
After how long?
I think that was after 2.5 years or so, maybe 3.
Yeah.
It built over time. But in that group, that was just for customers, and we were able to give them advice. They would ask a question like, this has happened, what do I do? And we ended up having moderators in there, or sleep consultants, to actually answer the questions for people, so they would be there 24/7.
Far out. So people could then go from trying to figure it out for themselves with the PDF to then asking questions if they're stuck.
Having support, basically a customer service line that was available all the time.
Yeah. Too many of us signed up to a KiwiSaver plan without much thought. And signing up is great, but if you've never got advice before, you could be missing out. Your KiwiSaver account could become one of your biggest assets over your lifetime. That's why getting expert advice early and ensuring you're in the right fund is so worthwhile. Generate have a team of KiwiSaver advisors available to help. Head to generatekiwisaver.co.nz/change to book a no obligation meeting. They can even come to you. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns. So in that first year, when you go from $7 and $15 of sales a day, but wow, this works, this sells, what did you go on social media and say to get people to buy it? Can you recall?
I think the first day, the day that we launched, we just threw out posts on our personal social media stuff where it was like, we're launching this, our programs help get your babies to sleep. Like, can you tell your friends?
Yeah.
And literally, like on your Facebook profile or your Instagram page, you're connected with your mates. And on that, you have 300-400 people, maybe 1,000 people who you're connected with. And there's generally going to be, across the three of us, that might have been, say, 2,000 people in total. Well, there's obviously 2 people out of those 2,000 who wanted to buy it or thought it was a good idea. And what you start to understand, especially with online businesses, is that there is always a percentage of people who are ready to buy, which is the same with any business, but it's more pronounced online because you can generally broadcast it to a larger number of people. So if you work on 1 or 2% of your audience being ready to buy, then if you see your numbers match that, then you've got it.
Yeah, nice. I think we assume that it'll be 30%, 40%.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But it's just not.
It would be amazing, but it's not.
But it'd be way too easy. Okay. So in that first year, what happens to really get that snowball going towards the end of that first 12 months where you said before basically 80% of those sales came in the last 2 months?
So that's when the grabbing money from overseas really started. So what we started to do halfway through that year was invest more into paid ads through mostly Facebook at that stage.
Yeah.
So we invested 30% of the previous week's sales into ads every week.
Nice.
So that was a ratio that we thought was a good idea.
Yeah.
And what it meant is that we were able to grow our ads, fueled that growth over time. And then what we noticed that we were getting, organic sales in Australia. And I was like, well, we just, same ad, just send it to Aussie. And then, boom, sales jumped up again. And then we noticed, of course, like everyone has a group of mates who are doing their OE in the UK. And then we started sending ads to the UK, and then, boom, that step jump happened again. And that's how it really got to that 300,000, was investing in the growth and then finding bigger markets around the world to really hit.
Because 2% of 7 billion is a lot bigger than 2% of probably 3.5 million in New Zealand.
Exactly.
Or if that, the market size would be small of people who have recently had a child, right?
That's right. And there's also the 7 billion is...
That's overkill because that's everyone on the planet, right? But
yeah, I mean, even if you bring it down to English speaking, we have noticed that there is a different uptake in different countries. Like Australia and the UK are very, very similar to us in New Zealand. So selling to those demographics are a lot easier. Whereas we've tried the States, and the States is like really ultra hard.
Really? Mostly
because I think people have more money to spend on ads in pay-per-click land.
So you're competing with more businesses.
Yeah. And we do sell in US dollars now as well. So that makes it a little bit easier to buy those ads because you're kind of buying 1 for 1 rather than 1.6 to 1 or whatever. So that, but it's not always as easy just to go to a huge market and succeed.
Yeah.
I think like taking those small jumps into countries that you kind of know will resonate will make a big difference, and it's still the same money coming back. So,
so when did you change the pricing and go, wow, maybe we could be charging Australian dollars and US dollars? I imagine to start with, you just would have been charging everyone in New Zealand dollars.
Correct. Yeah, it was all in New Zealand dollars. I can't remember when we switched to USD, but the idea for increasing prices came from a book that I read. I'll have to come back to you on it. But basically the idea was just to keep increasing prices, just increase prices. Actually, it was a Tim Ferriss podcast, and it was one of the guests had on there, what if you could put your advice onto a billboard that everyone could see, what would it be?
Yeah.
And it was keep increasing prices. And I always had that in the back of my mind of, okay, well, we can just keep going until we reach some resistance.
Yeah.
And there was different packaging, and, by the end of year 2, our 15-page PDF had grown into a 300-page PDF.
Wow.
Because of the Facebook group. We basically put all of the questions and answers that we'd received back into the content so that people could read it and they'd go, okay, this is happening. Oh, wow, I've already got an answer. Yeah. And that just built it out.
So by the end of that 2 years, what does it look like now when someone comes and buys? They're getting a longer PDF, but they're also getting access to a Facebook group, so a community, and then there's sleep consultants in there that they can ask their individual questions to. Anything else?
No, that was basically the business at the time. And then I think in that year, the end of year 2, year 3, we decided to put it all into an app. Because a Facebook group gets really unruly. And I know we've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
The culture of Facebook groups can be nasty, basically. Mm-hmm. And especially when you get a lot of tired mums in a group, there's not always good constructive conversations that go on.
Gee, you're great with your words, mate. There's some real bitches in there, I'd imagine. They're bringing other people down, saying things they shouldn't be saying.
That's it.
Okay.
And so what we could do, we thought we'd take it into our own app and create a better culture of support in there. And that, for better or worse, I think the Facebook group was easier to get people into. But the village that we call it now is a much better and constructive place for people to ask questions.
Yeah. So Little Ones is now 8 years old, right? Roughly.
Yeah.
So what does Little Ones look like today if someone's to purchase?
So today it's an app which has everything within it. So now what you get within Little Ones is you load your profile, your baby's age. And then a schedule is set out from the baby's age. And we've just released what we call our sleeper rhythm, which is basically if we take a step back, baby sleep is very much an algorithm. Every child is different, but at each different age, they need a similar amount of sleep. So it's pretty easy to predict, if your child is in days old, like 82 days old, that they need to be getting roughly this amount of sleep during the day to allow them to sleep well at night. And that changes on a daily basis. So what our sleep rhythm does is changes each day, slightly moves a schedule so that you know that you're on the right target. And then if the shit hits the fan, someone gets sick, you go out late or anything like that, you can chuck that in there and it recalibrates the whole day or the rest of the week to allow for a catch up and that sort of thing. Basically, it'll say if the shit hits the fan during the day, it's like, forget about us today. Let's start again tomorrow. Yeah. Today is a write-off.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. So they've got access to that all in the app.
Correct.
And then they still have the village. So the village is sort of everybody. Can they interact?
So not everybody. The village is now a higher paid option.
Yeah.
And that is true 24/7 support. So we have sleep consultants all around the world. And that's another thing that we've done as well. Our employees are not, only about half of them are in New Zealand. The rest are spread throughout the world, Portugal, Slovenia, Switzerland, Philippines, like a big development team in the Philippines. Yeah. So like that's the other beauty of thinking of a global business, is that you can get really, really good talent overseas that you don't necessarily have to pay New Zealand dollars for, which makes a big difference in being able to create things like the Sleeper Rhythm. We wouldn't be able to pay a team of 10 developers in New Zealand to develop that for us.
Yeah.
That would be all of our turnover.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. Business done.
That's it.
No one gets helped anymore. Yeah.
So that's what our app is allowed, what someone gets when they buy the app is the Sleeper Rhythm, the forum, and then all of our content around what to do and when, basically.
Yeah. Okay. And how many people have purchased now over these 8 years?
It's over 500,000.
500,000 customers. Yeah. Wow. And how many people are employed as such underneath the umbrella? Not like full time, but just, do you have a team of, got developers and sleep consultants roughly?
So we have a team of 12 now, and there is there's only maybe 5 or 6 full time and the rest are part time.
Yeah.
That team had been up towards 30 odd at pre-COVID.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of part time in there that could have been full time basically, and that's what we've sort of got back down to.
It's pretty amazing to think that what can start as a PDF document being sold to people, 15 pages of knowledge, can turn into a business that's helped 500,000 people all around the world, with people working for that business all around the world, and millions and millions of dollars worth of sales, I'd imagine.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, far out. What have been some of the biggest lessons through that for yourself and Amanda and Nikki, do you think?
I think if we bring it back to that idea of being able to get money from different countries and bring it back, what we've learned is that New Zealand is too small. You have to really go to where the population is.
Yeah.
As soon as you start jumping to Aussie at 20 million people or whatever, it makes a big difference. You can validate your idea faster. You can get some sales traction faster. And, there's nothing like dollars in the bank to motivate you to keep going, right?
Yeah.
And I think if people could take their knowledge, put it into a package, and then sell it overseas, you're going to validate ideas so much quicker than just in New Zealand. It's really hard to find customers for a lot of people in New Zealand. Like there's so many small businesses who get customers, but ultimately they are small businesses. I know you've talked about it in the past, like, was it when you went to the Derby or whatever, and you was talking to the guy next to you who's running like a $10 or $20 million business, and he had like 8 people or something.
Yeah.
And you were talking about what a small business is in New Zealand, and it was like 800,000 or something.
Yeah.
That's always stuck with me, is like he's able to do that because he's able to service probably a small area but a large population.
Yeah.
And if we can take that idea overseas, then that's really when we'll start winning as a country. We export everything, but we don't really export knowledge.
Well, that's the thing. And this is what I reckon this is such a big rock that we could turn over and just let the crabs go. And it'd be just a different world. But so that's, hence the SOS call to you of basically, mate, like you've done this path before, you get it, you've seen it, and try and inspire some other people to think about what it is that they could do. So whether it's a problem they could solve or even education. And I think it's easier to do now because there's platforms like School that Sam Ovens, who's a Kiwi guy, has built, SKOOL, and he is, building that for the life of him to try and basically do exactly what you're talking about, is give people a platform where they can take their knowledge and export it around the world.
Well, he's like the poster child of creating, not even a service, creating a knowledge base and selling it. Like with his consulting.com and the original Sam Ovens stuff, was very much just taking what he had in his head and putting it into a program and selling it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's an amazing internet marketer ultimately.
Yeah.
And he built that massively. But that he started that from the shore. And then he moved to the States and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But that is a really, really strong example of taking knowledge that a lot of people have, like how to create a service business and get clients, and then selling it to the world. Now, there's so many Sam Ovenses out there now that ship's probably sailed. But there's so many other things that people need to learn. I guess that's really what it comes down to. If you can educate somebody and provides something that teaches, a service that teaches somebody how to do something, then you don't need a physical product and you can sell it. And I think if people could turn their mind, like if you're a CNC operator and you wanted to create a business or teaching people how to be better CNC operators, you can totally do that.
Yeah.
And you would struggle to sell that in New Zealand, but you take that to any manufacturing hub around the world, you probably could sell it quite easily.
I got a message today, mate, from someone who teaches people how to do sewing.
Yep.
And I'm going to get them on the podcast, hopefully January next year. But they just said that they just launched their course. So the same thing, like online education around sewing. And they've made more in the first 7 days than they would in a month of doing their ordinary job. So, yeah, I think once you see it, you can't unsee it. And and I think if we can just get more Kiwis seeing it, imagine what the country could look like if we had more people that could export their knowledge and then bring US dollars back or Australian dollars, etc. It's a very, very different country, I think.
It really is, because you're also not necessarily cannibalizing someone else's income either. Like competition is tough here because there's so many people in whatever industry trying to do the same thing, and you can definitely clash with people.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to get customers from the overseas, from Europe or from the UK, you're barely going to touch the surface of the total number of customers that are available to your industry. And you're probably never going to impact someone else in New Zealand because of that.
Yeah.
And that's quite cool.
Well, if anything, you're adding to it because all that you're doing is bringing money into the country and then it's getting taxed as well. And so then you're contributing to the tax take at a higher rate. And if you think about it, if you don't swap your time for money, so you go and work somewhere and you earn $100,000, if you could figure out how to sell $100,000 worth of something, but to America in American dollars, then you're effectively on $160,000. And then you're going to pay tax on that. But once you build something via solving a problem or a PDF, like you say, you've built it and it's done. And then your job becomes selling it to more people who have that problem, rather than I need to work for the entire year to get my $100,000.
That's right. And I think that's kind of the key. We've talked about how you create a product and put it out there and people pay you for it magically. The real key there is how you sell it. And I'd really love to hear about the sewing business, how they got those sales in the first instance. Like if she's replaced her income in 7 days, which is totally like amazing and totally possible for people to do. Like it's actually not that hard, but it is hard, but it's not that hard and it's not that impossible. But they would have done something in the prior month or 2 months of building up an audience to then sell to. And that's while you're building a product, like what I've always tried to do, but not done very successfully with other things, is trying to build a product that people can watch you building it and then sell it to them. And I think that's a really strong way of building up a customer base to begin with.
Yeah, I like that.
And I think that's probably what they did. They might have
You're right.
had some sewing content and that sort of thing, and then and then, hey, I've got this course to sell to you. And that's how you would go out there and sell it. But the hardest bit, once you've created that product, is the first thing is getting that first customer, and the second thing is finding more and selling it.
Well, the beauty about that person versus yourself is because it's very easy to dismiss that person because they do have a large Instagram following, right? And I've interviewed other people who have large Instagram followings, and I think people hear it and go, oh, well, you could do anything with 600,000 followers or whatever. However, you guys started with nothing, which is basically your own circle of influence, or 1,000 people between yourselves, and basically proved, well, the same thing works. You're still only going to get 2% of them. So you got to go to them and get them to do it. And everybody has a database somewhere, whether it's on their Snapchat, their Instagram, their Facebook, their community Facebook group, the things that they're interested in, their clubs, their teams they're a part of, whether it's in their business. But we don't utilize our audiences. And I think one of the reasons is because we're scared to put ourselves out there and to put ourselves and say, this is what we're doing, would you like to purchase it? Because when 998 people tell you no, and it takes right through to then the final two to finally say yes, because they've then had another reminder, you've had 998 no's effectively in your head. And then you get the 2 yeses and you go, oh, this works. And it's enough. That's all it takes. And you go, oh, we got something here.
And that's the beauty of why you go international to a larger population, because you do get that number of no's, but you get more yeses, and not in proportion. The proportion stays the same, but you get a larger number of yeses that helps you keep going.
Because the pond's bigger.
That's correct. Yeah. I think the other important part of that is, yes, they might have had a really big Instagram following, and that is true. You can't take that away. But one of the other things to think about is, how do I build a following of 100 people that are interested in what I'm trying to sell? Because it'll take a while to create the product, and it's going to take you a couple of months because you're going to be your side thing, and there'll be other things get in the way. But over that time, can you build a database of 100 people who you can say, would you like to buy it? And then at least you've started with that base. So if you're starting from nothing, you can always talk about what you're trying to build and try and bring some people along on the journey.
Well, I mean, you would have seen this 1,000 times, mate, through your journey, but it's such a good reminder every time I see it. It was basically, people that will pop up in your feed and they'll remind you that 3,000 potential buyers is actually better than having a 30,000 person audience of people you've got no idea who they are.
That's right.
We get that because we live in this world now. But I think it's for when you're not in that world, you look at everybody who has a big following and you just assume, oh, they're crushing it. Oh, that'd be easy once you're at that stage. But again, there's probably only 2% of people in there that actually truly want what they want if they were going to sell it. And I think a good way to understand this is that if you look at most entertainers on social media, they'll usually have larger followers than someone who's educating, because an entertainer, you kind of think, right, they're not selling me anything, they're just popping up and they're funny, and this is adding a bit of something to my life, and they get bigger and bigger. And then little old us sitting on social media looks at that and thinks, like, that's what we have to do. We've got to go and do that stuff. And that's, I think, a lot of people reference, going on TikTok and dancing when it's not even actually what happens on there. But an educator, people go like, oh, do I really want to follow that? But if the entertainer tries to sell to their 300 or 500,000 people, they got just the same problem as what the person who is educating or doesn't have a big following is. They still need to find in that audience, do people actually want this? And that's why I think a lot of entertainers actually flop when they go to sell their audience something, because it's just something they've thought, oh, this will be easy to sell. And they go and do it and realize, like, oh, no one wants this shitty product that they've come up with an idea of selling.
Well, we've seen that firsthand with paying for influencer marketing, like trying to get influencers to sell the little one's product. And hardly any of them have actually been able to sell anything from what we've done. So that it's always been a flop. There was one who we probably recouped our money on, and that was probably the largest spend we had, which was quite good.
Yeah.
But in general, especially with mum influencers, They might be just, like you say, a more entertaining thing for people to watch. And when it comes to converting someone to buy a product, they're not actually that good at it. Yeah. So whereas, like, if you are an educational type social media influencer, like you say, you'll definitely have a smaller audience, but your audience is there to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
And they're getting something out of what you are saying, however often you're posting. So once you say, look, the old line of, like, I've put all this content out for free, would you buy my course, which is going to be an even deeper dive into whatever I'm talking about? There'll be a large chunk of that, I would say, probably closer to 10% of that audience who are going to buy.
Yeah.
And you've got it from day one, like not from the sales from day one.
How do you set your mindset up to know that it's important to build that audience, do you think? Do you think it's delaying gratification and knowing that eventually that's the goal, to ask them?
I would say it would be better to build the audience while you're building the product, and then get the product out there. Because the biggest problem that people face is they try and get their product perfect.
Yeah.
Perfection gets in the way of action, right?
Yeah.
So even if it's 80% there, you get it out, test it in the fire, and then see what people say. And people will buy, or at least if you can talk to people about it, they'll give you a reason as to why they're not going to buy. And that reason, firstly, will always be price. Just ask again, what's the real reason? And then you'll get closer to the truth.
Especially New Zealanders, right? It'll be price, or it'll be, I'll have to talk to my partner about this.
Yes, yeah. Which is still a fair thing, but then it's like, I'm not confident enough in the value that you're going to provide to pay you the money.
Yeah, the value doesn't exceed the price in their head yet, that you haven't actually addressed their objections as to what it is.
That's it,
yeah.
That's it.
And have you found that selling to people outside of New Zealand has actually been easier with little ones because they're less skeptical about buying things? Or is it actually just that there's a bigger pond and so then you pull more fish out?
I truly think it's a bigger pond.
Okay.
There is maybe a little less skepticism, especially, say, in Australia, just with the type of product it is. The education around baby sleep in Australia is actually quite advanced.
Okay.
Like, you can get sent to sleep school for a week if your child isn't sleeping, and that's paid for, I believe, by Medicare.
Really?
So, like, government funded to get you sleeping well, which is amazing.
Wow.
So that's where it becomes just that whole culture of sleeping is more advanced in Aussie. We didn't know that at the beginning. It's just a nice extra, I guess. But it's totally just the number of people that you can talk to, and then just the percentages are the same.
Beat the power game with PowerShop. If you want to get ahead with your money, you need to get ahead with your bills. Back in the day, I used to get a little thrill when a power bill would arrive in the mail and show that I was in credit. The thrill of being ahead of your bills is a feeling money can't buy. PowerShop is in the business of delivering that feeling. They do things differently, giving you the insight and control over your bill to stay ahead. With PowerShop, you can see what you're using and purchase power packs, which are discounted packs of power, ahead of time. This enables you to plan ahead and pay for power when it suits you. All in all, being with PowerShop means you're informed and empowered to take control of your power bill. So, what are you waiting for? Take charge of your dollars, kilowatts, and cents by switching to PowerShop. As a bonus, you can choose between a $150 credit or free weekends when you sign up. To see how much you could save, visit powershop.co.nz and get a savings estimate simply by uploading a recent electricity bill. Have you refined your messaging from, I'm sure you have, but how then have you refined your messaging from, say, like the first year to these days?
Our messaging has definitely changed, and it's been so incremental that it's probably pretty hard to figure out. And it's probably based more around getting information in front of people and just the mechanisms available to do that now and the cost of those mechanisms. So Meta ads, Google ads, all that sort of stuff. And SEO for a lot of it, like our SEO program is huge now.
Because people would be searching, my baby won't sleep.
Exactly.
So you want to pop up. Yeah.
I think we have 300 or 400 articles on our website of all the information that you basically need, and that's updated, every week. So anything you need to know on baby sleep is searchable for a search engine.
Yeah.
So that's where we've probably changed, is we've expanded the way that we deliver information to people. Like, we've got a YouTube channel. Obviously, our Facebook and Instagram posts are still there. But there's just that we have Nikki and Amanda do a podcast, or they do a season a year on the podcast. So I guess the messaging is the same. It's just the delivery has changed.
Yeah. How do you avoid shiny objects through this journey? Because I'd imagine it would have been so easy to think, do we get into selling white noise machines? It would have been never ending, was it?
I can't avoid it.
Yeah.
It's one of these things that I'm just like a magpie.
Yeah.
And Nikki and Amanda are much better at it.
Yeah.
But I guess this is kind of my role in the organization, is finding what's next.
Yeah.
And to be fair, we haven't really deviated from what we did at the beginning to what we do now. But I guess that's like, we have another business called Glam, which is another way that we try and get money from overseas and bring it back here. And that was a massive shiny object that happened while we were sitting around at COVID, stuck in the house. But that business, we operate from New Zealand, and 90% of our sales come from Australia. So that's just another way of stripping money out of the Australian economy and bringing it back here.
Yes, Lukey. Yes. All right, well, let's talk about that, because we were going to get to that. But I mean, just having 500,000 customers probably wasn't enough, right? So why not start another business?
That's right. Yeah.
So tell us about Glam, what it does, the problem it solves, and
that was another problem that we had. Prior to COVID, we bought a caravan, and because we wanted to see a lot of New Zealand and travel around with the kids. And I got stuck on the top bunk with a cramp trying to make it one day, and I hate making bunk beds. It's just terrible. And we thought, well, there's got to be a better way of making these. And Amanda created a product around basically a fitted sleeping bag. That's our Glam all-in-one bedding. And we just really made it for ourselves, another problem that we solved for ourselves. And then a couple of people who we met, while we're traveling around, said, oh, can you make some for us? And we're like, well, it costs a bit of money. Like, it's a lot of material. And
yeah. Are you going to Spotlight, let's say?
Yeah, it was Spotlight.
You're literally making it.
100%.
Okay. Even I've been there.
Yeah. And so we just said, it'd be like $250 a bed sort of thing. And this one lady who was asking us just said, oh, yeah, that's fine. When can you make them by? And we're like, that's a bit of money. Are you sure? And yeah, she was like, that's fine. Like, we've spent a lot of money on this caravan and we want to make it comfortable. So let's go.
Nice.
And so we went through a process of creating that product, and we have it now manufactured in China. Amanda's not behind the sewing machine doing it. And then just researched the market a lot more, and Australia is massive for caravans and motorhomes. Like, there's one brand makes 1,200 caravans a month.
Wow.
And ships them like at 120 grand a piece.
Sheesh.
That's just one brand. We met another guy who does 7 a week, but they're up to 300K. It's just like, people are spending that sort of money. So then there's a market for bedding, that's
accessories and
for all that sort of stuff. So we're like, okay, well, there's a market there. Let's sell it. And we've built that business with a 3PL in Australia. So basically, we buy stuff in China, or get it manufactured in China, ship it to Australia, to Melbourne, and then fulfill the orders from there.
So 3PL means that it sits in a warehouse in Melbourne, so it doesn't even come to New Zealand, and then basically you get an order off your website, and that goes to the warehouse, the 3PL, and then they just ship it.
They ship it.
Yeah, so you don't even touch it.
Shopify website, again, there's an integration with their system, so it loads, as soon as the order comes through, it loads on into their picking and packing, and then they pick, pack, and ship it out anywhere you want.
And you get to keep the margin, basically. So it costs you to create, and then there's all the different costs, including marketing, and then you keep the margin between the sale price.
That's it.
Yeah. And we bring that and we get that in New Zealand.
That's it. Keep it here. Steal
Nice.
it again from those Aussies.
Oh, so good. Okay. And how much faster could you grow that with the lessons that you had from little ones, do you think?
Because it's an inventory-based business, it's brand new to us.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's very, very different to a digital
Knowledge.
product.
Yeah.
Like there's some.
But a Shopify, you wouldn't have been sitting there going, "Oh, should we use Wix or should we use Shopify?"
Shopify just goes straight in. Like the website's built in a day.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very straightforward from those learnings that we've had, even prior to little ones.
Yeah.
Getting that spun up is not hard, and it's not hard for anybody. The hardest bits are creating the product and figuring out who you're going to sell it to, and then how you're going to get it into those people's hands.
Yeah.
Those things are tricky, and they're much harder. Any of the listeners out there should not get hung up on, I have to build a website. Literally, there are so many different places you can go out. Just use the basic template, create your content, put it up there. It shouldn't take you a day.
Yeah.
It is actually that easy. If you can get an email, you can build a website. People get hung up on what it looks like our first website for Glam especially, because with little ones, we were lucky with Nikki. She is very much a design and content brain. Like we are not like that.
Yeah.
Our first little ones website looked great. Our first Glam website looked shit, but it sold things on it. It wasn't a barrier to people buying it because the product resonated. But God, you look at it, even our current one still doesn't look fabulous.
Yeah.
But it's good enough.
I mean, it just reminds me, I've sold, hundreds of thousands I've taken hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of orders through a Google form.
Yeah.
No website, literally like fill this out. And I would say it didn't even have any integration. So it would have my bank account number. You need to pay into this.
Yeah, exactly.
and that was it. But you would send it to people, tell them the instructions. They either want it or they don't. And then they would pay for it. And they might get sent a hat, a hoodie, enter a punters club, like whatever.
That's
but
it.
There was no like, I better go to the web developer and make sure it all looks sexy, because then they're going to have their ideas about how it should look too and what's it going to integrate with. And I don't know. So a lot of my journey has just been figuring this stuff out or just doing stuff. And then I would see people taking payment through a website and think, that looks a bit easier. What are they using? What's this magic? Okay. And then I would start researching that, jump on Google, jump on YouTube, reach out to someone like yourself, and we kick ideas around, and you realize like, there's a tool for this.
Yes.
Someone's built it. Okay, great. Now I'll use it because I know that what I've got, people want. So then I'll upgrade it.
Well, and you can spend some of that margin that we're talking about on improving the delivery of whatever you're doing. It's always better to make it easier for people to pay. So like there is a bit of friction. You have to jump on your online banking for the Punters Club and put it in, and now you do it through the TAB, like straightforward. People, if you've got an account, it's easy.
Easy, yeah.
But you can afford to. Well, you could at that stage. You've proven to the TAB that you can drag all this money in for a Punters Club, and it's worth their while being involved. You know, and there is always. Like the cheapest way to get money from someone is for them to just transfer it into your bank account because you're not paying any merchant fees and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But over time, as your business grows, you can add that complication in for you, but it makes it simpler for the customer.
Yeah.
And then there's a little less friction and things become a little bit easier.
And I think that's what I want to highlight is that, going back to what you were saying, it doesn't have to be perfect from the start, but also you actually figure a lot of it out as you go. But also it's constant refinement, and it's not like it stops, right? It's not like little ones from year one is the same thing. And that's where I'm sure you've gone down some paths where you realize, we shouldn't be down here, and you backtrack and they've cost some money, but okay, back to the main highway. And just getting started is often the catalyst for all of these other doors to open, because you just don't know what you don't know when you start.
That's right. Getting started is the biggest hurdle that everybody faces.
Yeah.
And because it's the easiest place to get hung up on all of the stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. And also get in the wrong rooms with people who are stuck there too. And that's where all the combos happen about business card colours, websites. Oh, is it Wix? Is it Shopify? Who's doing your domain hosting? My question is like, have you sold any fucking shit yet?
Yeah, that's it.
That should be the first question. Have we put an offer out? Like, let's test the offer. Let's test the market.
Yeah, and because as soon as you're in the fire of people buying your stuff, then your product will just get better.
Yeah.
And as your product gets better from you talking to people about what you're selling, then you're just getting, things will start happening more and more for you. But if you're hung up on your color palette for your website, you're stuffed from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, even with Keep the Change, I'm looking at doing a meetup in September, and I still go out and I'm like, who would come? So that I can gauge, okay, how many people are going to come, or say they will. And I know from history, okay, let's say 300 of them said they would. Well, it ain't going to be 300. And I'm still going to have to push to get people along. And it's not even really selling something. It's just trying to buy their time for that 2 hours to come and learn some stuff. But then when I put it out there, I get a signal from the market of, yeah, I'd come to that, rather than no one. If there was no one, I think, okay, maybe I just park this for a while. It's not a good idea. But then I've got to go into, okay, now I have to pull this off. And I'm thinking, okay, I should probably get some speakers. So now I need a venue. Oh, are we going to give them a drink? Like, is it going to be free? Probably need to give them some food too. Do we have any branding? Like, no, I got nothing. Literally starting with nothing.
Yeah.
But I then go like, who, not how. And so I think, well, maybe I could ask Generate if they want to be involved. They're like, yeah, we can help out. And then it's like, okay, who's going to do the ticketing? Are you going to do the ticketing? Like, who's going to keep a list of this? Where's the venue? I'm like, oh, actually, I know where we could go. I'll reach out to them, see if they'll give us a venue. And then within 48 hours, you actually solve a lot of the things that you need to solve if you start looking at who can help you do this, rather than having to perfect it all or know all of the answers before you get going on it.
Yeah, I think what you proved with that example was you found demand first.
Yeah.
Now, whether that demand is moved to the sale side of things, you'd like you say, out of the 300, maybe 100 will turn up, right?
Yeah.
Or even maybe 50.
Yep.
But that's still a decent amount of people in a room, and it's worthwhile doing. So you know that from that stage, okay, so all right, what's next? Yeah, venue, who's going to pay for it? Geez, I need some flags or something, Generate will have heaps of flags, so you'll be fine. Just that sort of general stuff that makes it a bit different from just meeting someone at a bar for a drink to being an event. But you know that you've got a bank of people who are probably going to come or probably going to buy. So now let's create what we need to create. And it will still be, because it's the first one, when you do the second one, you'll do things differently. And the third and the fourth and the fifth will all be different. Yeah,
exactly. And I've still got to then go to the market. So audiences, just like if someone's trying to sell something for the first time and say, the event's locked in, do you want to come? Then I'm like, okay, I need some copy. I need to make a video. I need an image. And I probably needed 6 weeks to give it everything I can to get people to come along. And it becomes less scary the more you do it, I guess is my point here. But there's a lot to be said for just committing and then figuring it out as you go, rather than, not starting's easy. That's really what's easy, is actually not starting. And if you can get past that hurdle by just decreasing the time you have to think about how scary it will be, and basically just go, I'm thinking about doing this, or, we've got this product that can help your children sleep. Would you like to buy it? Once it's out to the market gets to decide. You don't decide anymore. It's actually a freeing feeling.
That's right. Yeah, the market deciding just takes that responsibility off you. You're responsible for creating the thing and putting it out there. And you're not responsible for people's reaction to it.
No.
And I think you might internalize what that reaction is, but that's another thing for you to work on, not so much the creation side. And I think if you've solved a problem and you're providing a solution, someone else is going to have that problem and want a solution too.
Yeah.
I always bank on that. And if you put it out to enough people, like, you can't just put an offer, just talk to one person.
No.
You got to put an offer out to lots of people and just be dogged about it. But you'll get some yeses. And then from those yeses, you'll be able to build.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it will look completely different in 2 years' time.
Yeah. So how would you say then, if someone wanted to start, how do they go about starting? Because you've also done some content. You're a big advocate for having a side hustle or something like this, right? Working in this space. What advice would you give there?
You've got to do an audit of yourself and figure out what your problems are.
Oh, Jesus. That's going to be tough.
And then take those problems and then remove all the personal ones and probably
good.
look at the...
I thought we were going down the counselling route here. I was like, whoa, okay, this has really changed it up.
We've all got problems that need to be solved, but probably not in that way. So then look at how you have solved some problems in the past and then create a product around that. It's quite hard to do. Like, don't get me wrong, you can't.
Yeah.
It might take you 2 or 3 years of trying and failing before you really find something. But if you try and solve a problem that you've never had, I don't think I've ever come across somebody who's created a successful business where they're solving a problem, who's created one. They might have bought one, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
But created one where they haven't had that problem to start with.
Yeah.
Because you're just not coming from a real place of problem solving, I guess.
Yeah, you don't know it as intricately as somebody who does have a problem, who's solved it and then solves the problem, right? And James from Henry comes to mind, where he hated doing a invoice off of a spreadsheet and then calculating his own tax. And basically that's why he's so passionate about it, is because that's what he used to do, rather than, another person who would have come into that industry and now do, and they go like, oh, that's working, we should build the same thing. Or just someone that pops up and goes, oh, it'd be cool if there's an app for that. Those are, they often don't work.
That's right. Those sort of things generally attract a lot of investment money, especially in the software as a service thing. And then, as money gets harder to come by, they start to fall over. I think for just a general Kiwi guy or girl who wants to create something to sell overseas and build a good business for themselves, if you start from something to solve something that you've got a problem with, then you're going to be in a much stronger position. It might be the third problem that you try and create a product for that actually works.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Your first one isn't generally going to be the one, but you start to learn about, putting offers out there. How do you structure asking somebody to do something? Like, especially if you're coming from a job where that's not a sales type role, where you're not used to asking for something to get in return, then that's a muscle that you need to build as well around putting out offers and getting people to take them up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was writing one today before I came here, and I've scheduled it out to go on Sunday, 7:03 p.m, out to our database, Next Advisory, buying a webinar replay of how to increase your sales.
Yeah.
And I've probably pushed that now maybe 6 or 7 times, but I've found another story to tell about why it's important to watch that workshop and then schedule it. It's an offer. Will people buy? Might sell 2 of them, $200, whoop your shit, but they might become a buyer in the future of, okay, now I need a new accountant. And you do get in the rhythm of making more offers, or the more you get in the rhythm of making more offers and then working, you feel more in control of your own life, I think. And that's the exciting thing. And that then decreases your worry about putting yourself out there, because you kind of know that, well, if I don't do this, I know my outcomes. But if I do this, I change my outcome.
I think an example from Glam of that feeling is we did a pre-order last year, and what I worked out that if I sent an email, we got $2,000 worth of sales, and that was for the 12 weeks leading up. So basically every time we sent an email, we got $2,000. And there were times where I'd be like, oh, I just don't have time, or
do they want to hear from me again?
Yeah, do they really? Should I really do that? I probably did email a bit too much.
Well, it would be too if I got $2,000 every time.
That's the thing. I was looking at it like that, but that really helped with that motivation of sending those emails and spending the time on creating them.
Yeah,
because you knew that if I let this go, this $2,000 is going to come back. And once you get into that sort of mindset of, well, if I'm just gonna chuck this out there and see what comes back, you'll be really, really surprised at how things build on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the example I always use with clients on the email space, but I think there's a good lesson in here for us too, is do you reckon that the grab a seat team get to work on during the day and go like, oh, come on guys, we sent an email yesterday, probably shouldn't send one out again tomorrow. Like, don't send them what the new deals are on the flights. See ya, you're fine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
And too many of us in New Zealand, I think we're conditioned to be offer takers. So we're told what our salary is going to be. We tick a box to have heaps of email marketing come at us. Oh, they got, whatever percentage off and stuff. And we get ingrained in offer taking. And then we think we're getting the power back. We're like, oh, I'm going to unsubscribe from that. But not many Kiwis can confidently go and make offers. And I think that's where it becomes hard, because if you do want to do shit for yourself and build it, you do have to become an offer maker and know what it's like to be on the other side of sending that email, to know that 40% of the people are going to open that email. If you're doing great, maybe even only 20%. And of that, still probably only 2% of the people are going to buy from that. But once you know that that's what it's like, you almost remove a bit of that worry, because you then start to learn about the data.
Well, that's a really interesting take. If you take solace in the fact that everyone, especially New Zealanders, like you say, are offer takers, and you're the one making the offer, then people are used to getting offers.
Yep.
And they're going to act on that offer one way or another. They're going to say no or yes. They're not going to be shocked that an offer's come their way.
No.
Which is that should be a really freeing mindset. Like, I can chuck this out there. People are going to expect, or people are used to seeing offers come. So it's not going to be an affront. And they're probably not going to read it anyway. Like you say, open rate's 40%.
Yeah.
if you're lucky. So what's the barrier for you to send that offer?
Yeah.
People aren't going to get pissed at you.
And the worst thing they could do is unsubscribe or just ignore it. Keep scrolling.
Well, the best thing they can do is unsubscribe, because they don't want to hear from you. That's great. You're not wasting time on them.
Yeah.
You just need to be adding more people in the front. That's all.
Yeah. Love it. And I think the thing to think about too is that if you can create something that you can sell for the next 5 years or even 2 years just to get you moving, if you can sell $60,000 US of it, it's basically $100,000 New Zealand. And that might take you 2 years to get there, but you could start outside of your job. You could start by doing it on your weekends. But if you just get rolling, you can actually quite quickly become a top income earner in New Zealand, because you don't understand what the value of your solution is until you go to the market and price it. And going right back to the start, one of the main things that you've learned was just keep increasing the price. And that's when you start to get that resistance and you get that market feedback of, oh, people aren't going to pay this. And, same thing for me selling here in New Zealand. I've done sessions for $1,300 and thought, holy shit, they're going to pay $1,300 for that. I'm absolutely winning here. And then I get to the end of it and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was way too cheap, or that was wrong. And then I might refine it and then it's $3,900. Yep, no worries. I'm like, oh, okay. So we individually don't actually know the value of a solution until we find the people who will pay for it because it's worth it to them.
That's it. It's like mining gold. You find a seam and you just attack that seam and milk it for as much as you can.
Yeah.
And
have you mined a bit of gold, have you?
I love watching those gold mining channels on YouTube. Yeah. I love that gold rush on Discovery back in the day. Yeah. So that's always where I go to. Yeah. But it's like, as soon as you find that customer who gets huge value out of a session with you for $3,000, $5,000, like that, what you're talking about there, you know the exact type of person that you need to talk to.
Yeah.
And you just need to keep finding those people and talk to them and just keep chipping away. And then at some stage they'll be ready to buy. And if you talk to enough people, then you'll get a flywheel of people who are regularly buying.
Yeah. I think in 2024 as well, we can use ChatGPT and go to it and ask it, like get it to help and say, hey, I'm really good at sewing like this person, or it might be this form of sport. It might be goal kicking, for instance, in rugby, and help it teach you what you'd need to tell or teach other people, and then figure out how to do that. So as an example of that, rugby kicking, for instance, you might have a pretty good system for improving your rugby kicking. And you could take tutorials where you're out front, you're on an angle, you're from the sideline, and your mate films you, and it could be off of an iPhone, and basically build the content of here's how to improve your goal kicking. Now, you could first go out to the market and you could find a Facebook group of people who are into rugby and say, hey, I've improved my kicking percentage from 50 to 83 by following this process. Is anybody interested in it? And then you're going to find people who are interested, and slowly you could sell them that as information. But I think people overcomplicate that it can't be that simple.
Well, it is that simple because there is a company that does it out of Dunedin called Rugby Bricks.
Yes, that's right. They sell the
tee now,
Yeah.
but it started off as a training program, and it still is. They sell a suite of training programs to clubs.
Yeah.
And they've done an amazing job. They still sell the tees. The tees are a massive business, and there's a huge amount that they sell into the UK and Australia. And now they even do that training program, but their way in is that they provide all the kit for the club, like all the jerseys and all that sort of stuff. And then the club gets this training program. Now, they've evolved the way that they sell that in to be like that, which is just so clever.
Yeah.
But that literally started from Dunedin and just building up an online learning business of how to pass and how to kick a rugby ball, to creating products and then morphing into this more like club platform type thing. So that is someone who was a great coach and then morphed it into that. So like you can do it with those things.
I think there was too much of an emphasis from the internet on drop shipping.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And whether we need to teach Kiwi, like it's knowledge shipping now. Ship your knowledge overseas, and there's platforms to do it on. So going back to school, for instance, you can upload video to it, and there's a classroom in there. There's a community piece so people can talk to each other. There's even a landing page. You don't need to have a website. It does it for you. And then people can pay to do a one-off. It could be like a one-off coaching course, right, for kicking, if we're going to use that example, or it could be a monthly subscription. And I think I should have gone and have a look at this before saying this, but I'm pretty sure I spotted Artie Severe launched a school platform so that people could get access to him. So I don't know if he's still doing that. I'm pretty sure he was in Japan at the time, but I saw it and I was like, holy shit, this is epic. And everything's there. So that's in US dollars, and I'm sure they'll launch other currencies in time. But I think it was around nutrition and training and what he does for training, and you get access as well. People will pay for the access alone, let alone his knowledge.
For sure, yeah. That's amazing. Like, I hadn't really thought about how professional sports men and women can leverage that side of things in school. Like that would be,
imagine,
wow, that would be powerful.
A weekly tutorial like on Zoom, and all it is Zoom. You can plug Zoom into the classroom with Cristiano Ronaldo. Like they'll break school.
Yeah, for sure.
It could be Dan Carter. It could be a netball player, Lisa Carrington. Like who knows? But this world, I think, we're just starting to scratch the surface of it. But I think Kiwis are they're way behind, and they don't realize what's actually sitting in front of them. And part of why I want to chat with you today is because you've been there and you've done it, and you guys are basically like nearly at the decade mark with doing some of this stuff. So I know that you get it, but there's a long way to go in this space, and there are people that are currently sitting in a 9-to-5 that could be teaching people all around the world how to play the violin, how to play the piano, how to speak English. They might be a teacher, and they might go, why am I teaching for the Ministry of Social Development or education, whatever it is that they're doing?
It could be both. Yeah.
And they could go, well, I could be doing this myself. And their goal might not be to have a multi-million-dollar business. It could be $60,000 of the US sales is $100,000. That's a 1 in 9 income in New Zealand. Yep, you'll have some expenses and whatnot, but you'll just then improvise and change it so that you make those expenses back. And you could, I think, with the school platform or similar things, you could create an income that you wouldn't think is possible, and all the technology is already there.
You would easily be able to replace your income once you've got started.
Yeah.
Once you're started and you're getting some sales in, it won't take you very long to replace a normal income.
Yeah.
anywhere up to 150K. Once you've got traction, you'll be able to get there because you'll learn how to do it. You'll get the motivation because you'll see people coming in and buying, and then you'll figure it out. To get to 500,000, I would say once you're at a 150, you probably get there pretty easily. From 500 above, then you're starting to get it gets a bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But it's not impossible.
No, especially with international markets.
Yeah, the demographic is there. It's just how do you structure things? You'll need more help.
Yeah.
You might need to employ people. That's hard. That's probably the hardest thing.
Yes.
And then training them, teaching them, making sure that delivery's right. There's a lot more complication to it.
Yeah.
But shit, you're 500K plus.
You can afford to.
Yeah. Should be happy for that complication, right? It's a bit of a privilege in the end.
And it's not like you have an $80,000 a year office space anymore and you need a $60,000 server. So sorry, you're out of the game now. You can't afford the server, so you're done. You stay at your job. No, the platforms can handle all of that stuff for you now.
Well, I don't think we mentioned, but we do all of this from home.
Wow.
We don't have an office space. All our employees and contractors are remote. We do it from our office at home.
Yeah. If you were, and I know that you have something, so let's go down this thought experiment. If you were going to start something on school from next month, what would it be, and how would you go about it?
Can I go into the thing that I want to start next month?
This is why I said you'll have something, because I knew that you will have something you're sitting on.
So it's take the idea from it, not the actual what the product is, because it's a niche-ish product, and unfortunately it's going to be New Zealand based in this example. But what a friend of mine and I want to do is create a social media for business owners, basically. That's the idea of it. It's not a Facebook ripoff. It is creating a community for business owners who turn over that 250K or more. And it will be probably on school where they can come in and ask questions and commiserate with each other, and basically creating a place for business owners to come in and talk about their problems and basically see that some people have the same problem as them and they might have fixed it. So how did they fix it? And build up a sense of camaraderie. Because from being a business owner myself, there's not a lot of people who you can talk to who are going through the same things. I made the adage, every workplace has a lunchroom which employees can go in and kind of bitch about what's going on in the business. But the business owner can't go in and bitch about, that they've got some HR problems or that a supplier is cutting them off, or that sort
having
of
a sick day.
Yeah. So that's we want to create a community around that, and that's how I would use school for that, especially for someone who is going out and starting something fresh. I would literally figure out a program of, say, 3 or 4 videos, 3 steps, or 3 steps to solve a problem, or 5 steps to solve a problem. Create a video series using whatever camera you've got. Yep. Use your phone, use your webcam, whatever that.
Screen record on your computer, laptop.
Exactly. Getting clips from a podcast perspective, like Riverside, you can use for free and just record yourself, and then it will create a whole lot of things for you.
Wow. There we go.
And then package that up, and you can choose what to do at this stage, whether you go out and sell it or whether you try and build a list of people that are interested in this and give it away for free. There's 2 ways you can go, and you can basically choose. For me, I would probably give it away for free for that email address so that you can build a list and then create something else and then try and sell it. The challenge you have with giving something away for free at the beginning is that you're not conditioning whoever's getting your stuff to buy it. And that can be a bit of a challenge to get from that $0 to $1.
Yeah.
You could charge $1 for it, and that actually gets over that hump straight away.
Yeah.
But that's what I would look at doing. Create some sort of video, because that also conditions you for marketing in the future, because video is the most powerful form of marketing. And then you'll be able to create, like, once you've created that, then you'll be able to create something else and try something else, and then just build those muscles, because it won't happen straight away either. That's the...
Yeah, well, it might take you 10 months and then you get 300 grand worth of sales in the final time.
Exactly.
It just reminds me, mate, whilst you're saying that, I was getting peppered on social media with a guy that would teach you how to do the splits.
Oh, yeah.
And people are paying for that. You know, can teach you how to do the splits in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, if that's your thing, that's your thing.
That's a really compelling offer, right? Because like, lots of people will look at that and go, well, if I can do the splits and I've got good flexibility, if I can go from being like rigid to flexible in 6 weeks, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's these people out there who they're almost taking the piss out of us at just how simple they keep it. But I think it's going back to what you were talking about before. That person solved that problem and they use video where they're doing the splits in the video. I'm like, well, this dude's clearly knows how to do the splits. So I don't have any objections. I'm just like, I don't want to do the splits. But, you know, I think at the time my personal trainer was getting me trying to do more stretches. And so maybe that's why the algorithm was targeting me, because it probably thought, well, you might need some extra help with this. But yeah, it doesn't need to be as complicated. And I do think that in school, there is an overall school-ish type community, and you can almost see what other problems people are solving. And that might be your ideation of, I could do that. Or you might see that they've got 2,000 people in that community or 20,000. And it's the eye-opener for you of, oh, wow, you know, there's something here. And they haven't got all the customers. You could do the same thing, do it better or do it your way. And you just start on your path and you refine it and you get better at it and put your flavor on it, and you can build yours as well. The world's a big, big place, and there's a lot of people with a lot of problems.
Like I was saying earlier, just the surface area of people that you can touch by going global is going to mean that you're not going to compete with those people. So if you see someone who's doing exactly what you want to do, then you're probably not going to come into contact with them. You know, you're not going to be stealing clients off them. A really good example of this is the fitness industry and online training. Yeah. Like online training is, over the last 10 years, has exploded massively, right? And there are some trainers who are making millions of dollars a year with their just teaching online. And you could never have done that from a gym. No. You know, and there's actually probably hundreds of trainers doing that millions a year. Like, yeah. So, like, and there's always new trainers coming up and teaching online, and they don't seem to be slowing down. No. So, like, that's a really good example of where a market is so large that you entering it and finding your 100 people who you want to look after is actually an achievable thing. Yeah. I mean, I even get reminded of this in my space here in New Zealand, where we're winning new clients and I'll say, okay, who's your accountant? And you think by now, I mean, I've been doing this shit for 15 years, I think, might be longer. I'm like, oh, never heard of them. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, where are they based? Like, oh, okay. And I'm like, oh, they got 16 staff. Yeah. Far out. But sometimes my mind will be like, oh man, there's not many businesses in New Zealand when you start stripping out all the sole traders and stuff. And then I'll be driving down a road and think, oh, I don't have any clients on this road. But, oh, maybe I should knock on all of their doors. And then I bring it back to a me thing. I'm like, yeah, maybe that's the reason, because I haven't gone and introduced myself. And I think it's easy to think that things are harder for us than what they really are, because we're not willing to do what we have to do to then really find out whether we can get it or not. I think like knocking on doors is hard, right? Shit, like, yeah. Really, really hard. And I don't even don't make your life any harder than it needs to be. Just go and target people overseas who are online. Yeah. Proven. Well, mate, we could talk for hours, and maybe we'll have to do a part 2 at some stage. But if people want to keep an eye on what you guys are doing, so little ones to start with, there'll be people listening to this who are like, holy shit, mate, like, how do we find these answers? Because you've helped 500,000 people all around the world. And like I say, I'm not going to let you take all the credit. So Nikki and Amanda as well. We should have got them on here, mate. Better looking as well. Probably better chat. Much better. Yeah. But how can people find Little Ones if they need to? So that's littleones.co. Yep. And if you've got a caravan and need some bedding, that's clamp.co.nz. And then our business owners podcast and group is called the Growth Engine Guys. Brilliant. Well, mate, always fun time, always flies. And I honestly think that there will be a few people listening to this that will realize, okay, you know, if you can do it, where you can turn it from a PDF document
into an app, 500,000 people with some help that they need around something that is very, very common, that maybe there's something that they could be doing too. So thanks for your time, mate, and thanks for the inspiration.
No worries. Thank you.